Hi everybody, I hope you are all well. It's been a few weeks since you saw me and it's been a busy few weeks. What's been happening? Working. I've had my dad's birthday. I had a couple of days away for work. We've had this major heat wave. We've had the worst adaptation of Persuasion in history, or Jane Austen adaptation in general in history. There's been a lot going on over these few weeks, but mainly I have been reading Catherine Cookson's A Dinner of Herbs, which is what I am here to talk about. So in case you hadn't seen my sort of announcement videos, of late and such, you wouldn't have known that recently it was my birthday. Well, it was like a month ago now. It was my birthday just over a month ago, and part of the my birthday present from my sister, because she didn't know what to get me, and I'd recently gotten into the Catherine Cookson dramas, watching them on TV, so much so that I bought myself the DVD box set for my birthday as a treat to myself, because I only had access to certain ones that I could download through my TV, because it was whatever had been aired by this channel here in the UK called the Drama Channel over the past like couple of weeks or so. So I only had access to like, I don't know, maybe about, I think it was about 10 in total, and there are 23 of them. So I was like, okay, right. And one of the first ones that I saw was A Dinner of Herbs, and I loved it. But anyway, so my sister was wondering what to get me for my birthday, because she really had no idea. And I said, oh, if you could find me a secondhand copy of a Catherine Cookson novel in a charity shop, that would be amazing, because I'd looked around where I lived and I couldn't find them, and very few of them are actually still in print in like Waterstones or WH Smith or other big retailers, because Catherine Cookson has just lost the interest in her books, has just slipped. And my sister kind of like went wide-eyed, because we were on a Zoom call when this happened, and she went, I'll be back in a minute. She left the room, came back with her arms full of books, saying, these are the Catherine Cookson books I have. I was going to give them away to charity. I shoved them in a bag and put them in the corner or something and forgot about them. Do you want these? And I was like, hell yeah. So I've got about like 15 some Catherine Cookson books from my sister for my birthday. And I was like, oh, fucking hell, that's amazing. So I had to start with The Dinner of Herbs, because it is my absolute favourite Catherine Cookson drama. So I have now read the book. It is a chunky book, and look how small the text is. So yeah, it is a full-on book. It's 700 and let me just confirm this. 725 pages, though it feels extremely longer because of the size of the text. But yeah, it was a saga. But yeah, it was an interesting one. Now, in case you don't know what this book is about, basically it starts on a day where a boy, he's about 6 years old, called Roddy Greenbank. I was conscious I was going to get his surname wrong, that I was going to slip up, and the first time I did, Roddy Greenbank is coming to the north of England with his dad. He hasn't seen his dad for many years, because his dad is a sailor, and his dad returned to find that his wife was dead and his son was living in this house with this old woman and basically being treated like shit. So he's taken his son and he's brought him back to his home near Hexham in northern England, not far from Newcastle. And on the day that he arrives, because his dad wants him to stay with this woman called Kate, who basically raised his dad. She's this very warm, loving woman who you could describe her as, I suppose, kind of like a wise woman in the area, because she deals with herbs and she has knowledge of medicines from herbs and such. But at the same time, she is kind of outcast because she's different from everyone else. Anyway, the day that they arrive, Roddy's father is murdered, because Roddy and his father witnessed something that they weren't supposed to witness. And Roddy is attacked and left for dead, but loses his memory. And following that, he comes to live with Kate, along with another boy called Hal, whose father has gone missing. He's from the local area. His family's a mining family, you know, but he needs someone to look after him. And Kate and Hal's family, father and Hal, were very close, so it made sense that she took him in. And down the road is a girl called Mary Ellen, who lives with her parents, but she's very, very fond of Kate. She spends all her time with Kate as much as possible. And she finds herself interested in these boys, and the story spans their life from the ages of about 6 all the way through into like their 50s, 60s, you know, so it is a long time period. There are a couple of time jumps in the book, because obviously they need to do that in order to keep the story going. Oh no, maybe 3 actually, because of the ending of the book. But yeah, it basically tells the saga of their lives, how some of them are entwined where they don't necessarily want to be, how they get caught up in things that when they were young they didn't even realize they were being caught up in. It's just that natural thing of wrong place, wrong time caused quite a lot of issues for them. And yeah, it tells the story of their lives, and it follows multiple generations. There is because obviously you've got the parents' generation, you know, arriving at Hexham, as I said, you know, the death that takes place. Then these children, Mary Ellen, Roddy and Hal, and then goes forward into their children and their grandchildren. So it is a lot of stuff to get through. A hell of a lot of stuff to get through. There are lots of characters that appear in this book. But yeah, there's a lot going on. I just want to really emphasize that. Now, Catherine Cookson, in case you don't know, she wrote books basically that now we would probably say are like Mills and Boon books. And pretty much if it wasn't for writers like Catherine Cookson, Mills and Boons probably wouldn't be as popular as they are now today. So she was kind of like the mother, or I suppose now the grandmother, of this wave of writing period pieces that have, you know, romance as a center. I'm not saying that she made up the genre, not at all, but the thing that she was able to do was that she had it that it was totally raw and real about life in Northern England at that period. By that I mean every single character who we follow is working class. We follow their daily lives, their daily struggles. We totally understand everything about them. And anyone who is of authority, who are rich, are the enemy, basically. And sometimes it's very, very interesting, like how it's explored in this book, how someone could start from the working class and become higher class, and how the corruption of their soul takes place. Because Catherine Cookson grew up in a poor working class family. She was raised actually to believe that her mother was her sister, who was named Kate, and Kate was an alcoholic, and Catherine had a very, very strained relationship with her. So when she found out the truth about who her mother was, and she went through a lot with not knowing who her father was, and there was some really deep psychological problems with her and her family. And it's just so interesting that she named this wonderful woman, this very warm, loving woman who takes in these children, Kate. She's made the wonderful mother that she wanted Kate to be, that she dreamt in her childhood that she could have had, and she never had. And it's just heartbreaking to me to read this book and know that and realize that. It's wow. It's astonishing. Catherine actually started writing because of a loss of a child, and she discovered that although she could conceive, she could not carry children. And she had been writing since she was young, but it kind of, obviously, as she grew up, it kind of faded away in regards to her focus of what she wanted to do in her life. And her husband just said, look, if it helps you, write. And she did. And she became this massive author. And so, yeah, although she slipped out of popularity, she has still got a very strong voice. So that was a long-winded way of me saying that. Basically, I went into this, although I knew the story from the drama, I want to emphasize from the drama, I didn't know her writing. And to be honest, the drama, probably the last 45 minutes to an hour, basically go, right, we're going to cut out all of this section of the book. We're going to reorder this. We're just going to throw this out so that the character of Hal ends up basically going into a psychotic rage, which makes no friggin' sense whatsoever. And then we're going to tie it up with a nice bow and abruptly cut the ending. That'll be it. That'll be the way for us to get around the ending of this book. And I am so frustrated because the ending of the book is really, really clever. Now, let's get back to the writing. So Catherine has written this with such rawness. I loved it. I have to say, it was a slog to get through. I am not going to deny it. It took me a long time to get through this book. But as I said, I've been really quite busy. I've been away with for a few days with work. We had the massive heat wave that happened, and it was so hot that I couldn't read. I was just like, oh God, I was so frustrated, so it was a bit of a chore to get through because my life was just so crazy busy over these past few weeks with other things that were out of my control. But I got through it. That's the main thing. Now, Catherine writes so completely raw and real, which I love. Every single person I totally adored that I could relate to. Even though, I live in the south of England. All my family are from the north of England. So hearing the terms that people refer to themselves, the slang, the getting angry, possible yelling, having a bit of a spat and all that lot was so genuinely great because I know those voices. I know it's so real. It was quite eerie how real it was. And I love the fact that she had characters get angry, swear at each other, hit each other, do whatever the hell that they felt that they had to do in that time because it was what was ingrained in them from the beginning of their life. I'm not saying that everybody, lashes out and all this lot, but let's say, for example, let's take Hal. So Hal, he has grown up, basically just him and his dad, mining family. They've had to work so hard for everything that they do. They put up and shut up. They just do what they've got to do. If it means that they have to work 10 odd hours, they'll work 10 odd hours because it's what's going to put food on the table. But occasionally Hal gets frustrated and he lashes out. And so when he does that, especially when he's a child, he's confused about his dad being missing, and then later on in life when he learns the truth and the things that he does after that, even going on into the next generation, you totally understand why he's doing what he's doing. Where that's why in the drama, as I said, because in the last hour or so they chopped stuff up and took it out and rearranged stuff, Hal basically comes across as kind of a bit of a psycho when he's not. It's just circumstance and the way that they cut it up. It was so frustrating. So yeah, I completely and utterly understand every single one of them. Everything is also genuine with what people do day to day for work, how they live. It feels organic. Everything in this book feels organic. Okay, you could say that some bits are a bit sensationalized because, obviously drama in a book, she's got to keep the plot going and keep people engaged. But then at the same time, it's kind of like, it reminded me of writers like Ken Follett, who, if you look at the Pillars of the Earth, every single one of those characters, even though it's medieval England, which is very, very different from now, every single one of those characters has a purpose, has a function. You feel every single process that they have to do, whether it's making flour or building the cathedral or making stained glass or something like that. Every position feels completely true to reality. And Catherine Cookson is the exact same kind of writer. Yes, okay, she's talking about different things like working down a mine, or at the mill, or gathering herbs, or farming, but it's still completely genuinely real to to our world. And I loved that about her. That made the characters more prominent to me. I felt more connected to characters, and as I said, I had more of an understanding of why they do what they do, which is absolutely wonderful, especially when you're reading a book that's got so many characters. It's quite a slog and a saga, but it is important that we have that. And so yeah, I just loved this book. I'm going to read a bit of the prologue. So, right at the beginning of the book, obviously. So this is Roddy and his father Peter arriving at Hexham in order to speak with Kate, and then you see their arrival, and then it kind of goes back to explain how they got to that point. But I'm just going to read a bit of this, okay? So, Peter Greenbank threw back his head and sniffed. Then, looking down at the small boy he was holding by the hand, he said, "That's the smell. God, yes, it's a stink. I smelt and tasted it as a boy. It's a different smell altogether from the coal dust. It chokes you, does the smell of smelting. And they built a wall around the mill thinking that would keep the smell in. Did you ever hear anything as daft as that? Are we far from the place now, Da?" "Far from it. Langley? We're in it, boy. We're in it. You're standing now in the barony of Langley, although I can see why you don't recognise it from my tales of it by. It has changed. Oh, yes." He nodded his head now. "That was all open land over there," he pointed in the distance, "but now they've got it under trees, and it's as pleasing to look upon as they reach their age, which won't be for a year or two yet, I'm thinking." "Is it far to the house, Da?" "Why, are you weary?" No, the boy lied valiantly, and he looked up at the tall man, a mixture of awe and adoration showing on his face. This was his father, who had come back into his life not 3 days ago and transported him into a wide new world. He was 5 years old when he had last seen him, and remembered him vividly. He had stood by the side of his mother on the Newcastle quay and waved frantically to him as his boat sailed down the river Shields from where it would go into the wide sea. Now he was 7.5 years old, and the man looked the same to him exactly as on the day that he had waved him goodbye. He was tall and strong and bright of countenance, with big dark brown eyes. His mother had always said he himself had his father's eyes and would one day be exactly like him. He wanted to be like his father. Oh, yes, he did. So he added now, "I could walk 10 miles, more, 20. His father cuffed him gently on the head, but in doing so knocked his cap off, and when they both stooped to pick it up, their brows touched for a second, and they looked into each other's eyes and laughed. Then, hand in hand again, they walked on over the narrow, uneven path in silence for some way until the boy said, "The castle, Da. Will we see the castle?" "In 2 minutes, you'll see the castle, my boy." And it was after exactly 2 minutes that Peter Greenbank brought his son to a halt and pointed, saying, "There it is, over there, the castle." The boy stared long and hard at the pile upon pile of stone, and when he made no comment, his father said, "Well, what do you think?" "It's old." "Aye, lad, it's old. And it wants mending." The tall man burst out laughing and said, "Right again, it wants mending." "Does no one live there?" "Not any more. You're disappointed in the sight of your first castle?" "It isn't my first castle, Da. There's a castle back in Newcastle, a fine one." "Yes, you're right. Peter Greenbank cuffed his son's head again. This time the boy grabbed at his hat with both hands, and once more they were laughing together. "Well, come on," said father. "It's evident you're not impressed. We'll have to see what you think of the smelting mills." "That's where you said you used to work, Da?" "Aye, that's where I used to work." So as you see, everything just feels just so real and genuine, and I just love that it has this thing where it cuts through the crap basically. She doesn't spend forever talking about processes of things. She just gets on with it. But I think especially because this book is so thick and has so many storylines going through it and multiple generations, as I said, she needs to cut through the crap basically. And I loved being absorbed in this story. I loved all the various characters. There were some real surprise revelations for me about characters because I only knew the drama. But yeah, the pacing was good. I said the authenticity of genuine authenticity of the world, the characters was stunning. She beautifully talks about this area where where she was from. She was raised in Northern England. She knew it so well. The way she talks about the land, it's just it lives in her heart and her soul. And it was just so beautiful to read. Really sad at times, very shocking at times, especially the ending. But also, what I love is that if something isn't pertinent to the main plot, she won't talk about it. So, like, say, for example, as I said, the murder that takes place at the beginning of the book of Roddy's father, Peter, that is pertinent. So she will describe that quite detailed. But then the death of another character or two people that have slept together, which results in a child, she doesn't cover that. It's kind of like, well, that's private. That's not pertinent. I'm not, that's not, no, I'm not going there. And I appreciated that. You know how some writers will want to describe in very heavy detail every single little thing. Catherine goes, no, they don't need to know that, so don't worry. And I really respect her for that. I really, really do. It was well paced. I liked the characters. The story is great. But there's a lot going on in this book. So I would say that if you do pick up A Dinner of Herbs, I probably would expect maybe that you might want to put it down every now and then just to have a bit of a breather. Because it is a lot. It is a lot, but it is a fabulous story. I really love this story very, very much. And Mary Ellen, Hal, and Roddy, how their decisions then impact the next generations is so interesting. And I love the fact that near the end of the book, Mary Ellen explains why basically this book is called A Dinner of Herbs. I never understood it. I never understood that title. And I always thought, oh, because it relates to Kate, because she collects herbs and she uses them for medicine, that must be why it's called A Dinner of Herbs. No, I was completely wrong. And I love the fact that Catherine basically presented it to me as a reader and went, that's it. And it makes so much sense. It's like, oh my God, that is mental. It's kind of like how, the book about Take Courage about Anne Bronte that I read by Samantha Ellis. I didn't know what Take Courage meant. I thought he was like, oh yeah, because she was a strong character who had to deal with loads of stuff. That's what it's called. That's not why it's called Take Courage. And when I read at the end of the book why it's called Take Courage, I burst into tears. I was like, fucking hell. So it's kind of similar with this. And so, yeah, as an introduction to Catherine Cookson, and I picked her, I think this is her biggest book. Whew, it was quite an introduction to her writing, and I'm really, really glad I picked A Dinner of Herbs to read as my first one. Now, as I said, there is the drama. The drama is the longest drama. It's 5 hours long, and it only covers 2 generations. It covers generation of Mary Ellen, who's there on the cover, Roddy and Hal, and then it go I suppose the book covers 4, because if you think Kate and their parents, them themselves, their children, and then grandchildren. So basically there's 4 generations in the book. So this one covers 3, because the grandchildren aren't even a factor. They end the drama before even any of that goes down. so yeah, the drama is really great. As I said, it's my absolute favourite Catherine Cookson drama. They did the last 45 minutes to an hour. They basically went, right, now let's hack up the book, like I said, and let's try and tidy this up into a pretty bow as much as we possibly can. But yeah, I love the way that it ended in the book was truer to life, I think, for the realities of everything that happened. And yeah, I think she did a damn good job of it. So there's my thoughts on A Dinner of Herbs by Catherine Cookson. I didn't say I would definitely recommend the drama because it's my favourite one of the lot. But yeah, definitely go for it. Give it a try. If I can find anything about the drama on YouTube, I'll include links in the description. So my usual questions. Would I read this again? Yes, I would, but I think I want to get through the various Catherine Cookson books that I have before I go back to this. So yeah, I think it'd be a good one to go back to. Would I recommend this to anyone? Yes, I would, but I would, flag that there's a lot of stuff going on in this book. So it might be something you might have to put down every now and then, but that doesn't mean that, put down and forget about, because I always wanted to come back. So, she's written it very well. Would I read any more Catherine Cookson's books? Yes, and I've got a hell of a load, thanks to my sister, in my study upstairs. So yeah, definitely. So those are my thoughts on A Dinner of Herbs by Catherine Cookson. Have you read this book? I'd love to know what you think. You can leave me a comment box below, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, tell me what you like inside. And I'll be back with my next read, which is also a Catherine Cookson book, which is The 15 Streets. I think this was like my fourth favourite drama. Third or fourth favourite, I can't remember which. I'll have to look, because I actually ranked them when I was watching the DVD box set. So I have a full ranking on my phone, so I will dig that out. But yeah, this is much thinner than this bad boy, so I think I'm gonna get through this pretty quickly. And basically it follows the Abrian family who live in the early 1900s on this place called the 15 Streets, which is a very, very poor, rundown industrial part of, I think it's Sheffield. I can't remember exactly. But there's John and his brother and his family live together, and a woman called Mary comes into John's life who is a bit higher class, and it's about the clashing of society and their relationship and such. And it was such a good drama, and I was like, I have to read The 15 Streets next. So I will back my thoughts on The 15 Streets as soon as I'm done. All right then, guys.